Alex Eala's grass court season is off to a flying start. The Filipino tennis star cruised through her opening match in
Hurry, she approached every point patiently, painstakingly building rallies and waiting for the tiniest opening before precisely accelerating. And she made the most of those possibilities when they presented themselves. One specific rally early in the game altered the atmosphere in the stadium. After a deep defensive return that was driven into the corner, there was a frantic recovery attempt that just missed the net. Ellis abruptly changed course, entered the court, and fired a clean forehand winner down the line just as it appeared the point could be lost. The audience reacted right away, but the VIP area's response was equally apparent. With his gaze fixated on the court, Prince William leaned slightly forward in his chair. With his hands clasped and eyes following each exchange, he seemed totally engrossed in the contest that was taking place. It wasn't an overly dramatic gesture, but it was sufficient to demonstrate true participation. This was obviously no longer a casual observation at that point. One of the most well-known people in the nation had taken an interest in the match, and this level of concentration inevitably improved the atmosphere surrounding the event. Eala's confidence became more apparent as the competition went on. Her return position moved closer to the baseline, her second serve hit its targets more consistently, and her backhand started making heavier, deeper shots that forced her opponent farther into the court. What ensued was an intriguing tactical conflict where each victory seemed earned. Break points created obvious suspense, service holds had additional significance, and the audience grew increasingly engaged with each minute that went by. Then the pivotal moment arrived. The players engaged in a taxing rally that lasted more than 20 strokes in the second set after the score was tied at 4-4. Momentum was constantly shifting from one side of the court to the other, pushing both players to their physical limitations. Eala skillfully deflected her opponent's 3 consecutive finishing efforts by slipping over the grass, regaining her balance, and repositioning herself each time. The fans were on the edge of their seats due to the intensity of the exchange, and as the rally grew, more and more of them gradually stood up since they felt they were seeing one of the game's pivotal moments. With each shot, the anxiety inside the stadium increased. As the rally continued, you could see the tension rising as each player looked for the opportunity that could turn everything around. Then Eala moved in an instant. She closed the point with a well-placed volley that clipped the line after firing a crisp cross-court forehand that dragged her opponent wide. She then quickly ran toward the net. The audience erupted. Fans' reactions to one of the afternoon's most magnificent moments filled the stadium with uproar. However, the cameras weren't just focused on the onlookers this time. Prince William gave a slight nod of agreement as they swiftly moved in the direction of the royal box. It was obvious, even if it wasn't dramatic or overdone. It was the kind of response that conveys a lot without using words. At that point, Alex Eala was more than just a young, talented athlete pursuing her professional career. She was now the main attraction of the entire arena, capturing the interest of everyone there, even the most illustrious visitor. It was no longer just a standard first-round encounter. It was turning into one of those performances that people would remember long after the game was over. There was little enthusiasm when match point finally arrived. There was only another point that needed to be played. There was neither a long wait nor a dramatic build-up. With unshakable attention, Eala moved behind the baseline and bounced the ball twice. The stadium had become unusually quiet around her. A pivotal moment looked to be coming, and even the crowd seemed to realize it. She served wide, causing her opponent to make a quick comeback. All she needed was that tiny gap. She launched a crisp forehand down the line with a single, forceful step forward. The ball made a flawless landing. Winner! The entire venue appeared to be frozen for a moment, as if everyone was taking in what they had just seen. Then the quiet broke. The Edgbaston Priory Club erupted in cheers as onlookers jumped to their feet in joy. Cameras immediately focused on Eala, and the applause swiftly transformed into deafening support. Before she lifted her racket in a straightforward but significant gesture, she stood close to the baseline, breathing heavily and taking in the scope of the situation. The performance that had brought her there was reflected in its composure, control, and respect. Because this was not just another win on the calendar for the grass court season. Everyone who was fortunate enough to see it was left with a lasting impression by the powerful performance that was given under extreme scrutiny. It was a display of poise, skill, and maturity. Prince William joined the cheers in the VIP area above the court. It was hardly the kind of courteous recognition that is frequently observed at athletic events, but a response that seemed to show sincere admiration for the performance he had just seen. Stayed in his seat longer than many had anticipated, even after the game was over, and watched as Alex Eala gathered her things, acknowledged the fans, and walked slowly toward the direction of the tunnel. He appeared to be thinking about what he had just witnessed from a distance. The caliber of the tennis, the poise under duress, and the maturity of a woman who is still making a name for herself on one of the largest platforms in the sport. He made a few quick remarks to tournament officials, and onlookers close to the VIP area would subsequently characterize his response as subtly impressed. Even after many of the visitors had started to depart, he reportedly kept turning to face the court, because the events of that afternoon seemed more than just a straightforward triumph. It seemed to make a statement. Eala too felt a different atmosphere when she left the court. She didn't seem taken aback by the situation or overpowered by the attention. Rather, she appeared calm and completely conscious of her surroundings. She seemed to see that her role in the sport was changing and that games like these were becoming more than just scores on a scoreboard. They were moments that garnered interest, sparked discussion, and stuck in people's minds long after the game was over. One impression stood out above the others as she vanished into the Birmingham tunnel. Alex Eala was no longer just taking part in competitions. Everywhere she competed, she was becoming into a player whose presence generated excitement. What transpired in Birmingham was more than simply another victory during the grass court season. It was proof of how quickly her reputation is still rising. More and more, the discussion around her goes beyond statistics, rankings, and draws. It focuses on the effect she has on the court, the attention she attracts from spectators and fans, and the feeling that each noteworthy performance adds a new chapter to a narrative that keeps gaining momentum with each event. The atmosphere surrounding a tennis match is unavoidably altered when a public figure, like Prince William, attends and actively participates in the action on the court. This is not because the presence of royalty determines the value of a tennis performance, but rather because it shows how much a young athlete's influence and visibility have grown. Once seen to be a bright future rising through the ranks, this player is becoming more and more capable of drawing interest from audiences outside of the tennis community. However, the VIP section was never the most significant aspect of the narrative. It was what took place on the actual court. Under the kind of spotlight that many players do not experience until much later in their careers, Alex Eala's performance in Birmingham demonstrated a level of control, maturity, and poise that shone out. Each gathering seemed to have a purpose. Growing awareness was evident in every tactical change. Additionally, each crucial point showed a player learning how to not only compete at a high level, but also how to take advantage of crucial situations when the pressure is at its highest. This distinction is important because it distinguishes between change and development. The majority of tennis careers are developed gradually over many years through consistent progress and experience. However, there are times when a player reaches a point where advancement picks up speed and perception shifts more quickly than expectations can keep up. These are the times when something bigger might be emerging. Alex Eala seems to be going into that stage right now. Her performances are becoming more significant, her results are drawing more attention, and discussions about her are starting to go beyond individual games. There is a rising perception that she is transitioning from being seen as a future prospect to becoming a true force in the present, whether it is determined by her confidence, consistency, or increasing presence on the court. And if Birmingham has shown anything, it is that her fame is expanding with every chance she gets. Her rising stature is determined by a pattern of performances that continue to garner notice well beyond the tennis court, rather than by a single game or outcome. Alex Eala's popularity seems to grow with every tournament, driven not just by her wins but also by the way she competes, adjusts, and manages increasingly important situations. The focus of television cameras, the responses of people in the stands, and the interest displayed by prominent onlookers all lead to the same conclusion. She is now involved in the broader discussion of establishing the sport's future and is no longer just another name in the draw. Furthermore, such interactions are never the result of coincidence. They are developed by performances like the one in Birmingham, when presence, timing, and execution all work together to draw in viewers and make an impact. It remains to be seen if this match turns out to be a pivotal moment in her life or just another significant milestone. Tennis careers are lengthy, and the most important parts are frequently only recognized in retrospect. However, it's already evident that Alex Eala is moving into a new phase of her career, one in which attention is growing and expectations are rising. She is no longer being quietly watched as a promising prospect in the background. Rather, she is being closely observed, talked about more often, and followed with a degree of attention that suggests something unique might be emerging. And as the focus grows, each performance serves as a chance to demonstrate that the increased attention surrounding her is not just due to her potential, but also to her accomplishments, maturity, and the increasingly evident impact she is making each time she takes the court.